small mud brick house at the edge of the village stood as a testament to resilience. Inside, a newborn's first cry pierced the heavy air of grief that hung like a thick blanket. Favor entered the world on a day marked by loss, her father's recent death casting a long shadow over her arrival. Mama Stella, a woman with skin like weathered leather and eyes that had seen more pain than joy, cradled the infant with trembling hands. She remembered her son, Favor's father, a bright-eyed young man who had dreams bigger than their small village could contain. He had been a trader, ambitious and kind, who had fallen in love with a woman from the city. Their love was passionate but short-lived, cut down by an illness that swept through the region like a merciless wind. Favor's mother, overwhelmed by grief and unable to bear the constant reminder of her lost love, made a choice that would define Favor's early years. She left, not with a dramatic scene or tearful goodbye, but quietly in the dead of night, leaving the infant with her mother-in-law. Mama Stella was no stranger to raising children alone. She had raised her son single-handedly after her husband died years ago. Now, she would raise her granddaughter with the same fierce determination that had seen her through countless hardships. As Favor grew, her personality became a force of nature. Even as a toddler, she displayed an uncommon determination. Where other children might cry when denied something, Favor would find a way around the obstacle. She learned quickly that the world would not simply hand her what she wanted. She would have to take it. The village was small, nestled in a region where survival meant working hard and staying strong. Mama Stella worked as a basket weaver, creating intricate designs that were sought after in local markets. She began teaching Favor the craft from a young age, recognizing her granddaughter's nimble fingers and sharp mind. Life will not be kind to you, Mama Stella would tell her, but you can be kind to yourself by being smart, by being strong. These words became Favor's mantra. She watched how her grandmother negotiated prices, how she carried herself with dignity despite having little. She learned that beauty was not just about appearance, but about how you presented yourself to the world. By the time Favor was 10, she was already helping her grandmother in meaningful ways. She would accompany Mama Stella to the market, learning to weave baskets and understanding the delicate art of negotiation. Her charm was evident even then. She could make potential buyers smile, could convince them to pay a little more with just a well-timed word or a bright smile. The village began to take notice of this extraordinary girl. Some called her stubborn, others called her ambitious, but everyone agreed on one thing: Favor was different. She wasn't content to simply exist. She wanted to thrive. Nights were spent listening to her grandmother's stories, tales of their family's history, of struggle and survival. These stories became the foundation of Favor's understanding of the world. She learned about her father, about the dreams he had, about the love that had brought her into this world and then quickly taken him away. You are a combination of strength and beauty, Mama Stella would say. Never let anyone tell you that you are less than what you know you can be. And Favor believed her. Every challenge became an opportunity, every setback a lesson. She was building herself, piece by piece, into the woman she was destined to become, not knowing that her greatest challenges were yet to come. Beauty is a double-edged sword, especially in a world that often judges a woman by her appearance. For Favor, her striking looks were both a gift and a challenge she would learn to master with the same precision she applied to her crafts. As she entered her teenage years, the whispers about her beauty grew louder. Her skin was the color of rich honey, smooth and luminous. Her eyes held a fire that seemed to spark with intelligence and determination. Her body moved with a grace that drew attention, but it was her confidence that truly set her apart. In the village, beauty was often seen as a woman's primary asset. Girls were prepared for marriage, taught to be demure and compliant. But Favor was different. Mama Stella had raised her to see her beauty as a tool, not a limitation. Your face will open doors, her grandmother would say, but your mind will keep them open. Favor took these words to heart. While other girls her age were learning traditional household skills, she was expanding her craft. Her basket weaving became more than just a skill. It became an art form. She began experimenting with designs that were both traditional and innovative. The local market became her first real stage. What started as helping her grandmother sell baskets quickly transformed into something more. Favor understood early on that presentation was everything. She would carefully arrange her products, creating small displays that told a story. Each basket was not just a container, but a piece of art. Her first major breakthrough came unexpectedly. A traveling merchant from the city stopped at their market. Most vendors would simply try to sell their goods, but Favor was different. She told stories about each basket, where the materials came from, the traditional techniques used, the meaning behind each pattern. The merchant was captivated. He bought her entire collection and asked for more. But instead of being satisfied, Favor saw an opportunity. She negotiated a consistent supply arrangement, understanding that this was more valuable than a one-time sale. Word spread quickly. Other merchants began seeking her out. She wasn't just selling baskets, she was selling a narrative, a piece of cultural heritage carefully crafted into each item. But Favor didn't stop at baskets. She began to experiment with jewelry, using local materials in ways nobody had before. She would collect seeds, stones, and traditional beads, creating pieces that were both beautiful and meaningful. Each piece told a story of her village, of her heritage. Her beauty became a strategic advantage. People were drawn to her, wanting to hear her story, to understand the inspiration behind her work. But Favor was careful. She knew that being seen as just a pretty face could be a trap. Mama Stella watched her granddaughter's transformation with pride and a hint of caution. Beauty can open doors, she would remind Favor, but it's what you do once you're inside that matters. By the time Favor was 20, she had transformed her family's small trading venture into something more significant. She employed other women from the village, creating opportunities where before there had been only limited hope. Her designs were unique, her business approach revolutionary. The local women's cooperative became her first major business venture. She understood that by lifting others, she could create something larger than herself. Women who had previously struggled to make a living now had steady income, learning skills that would transform their lives. But success came with challenges. There were those who tried to take advantage of her youth, her beauty. Men in the market would offer help that came with strings attached. Other traders would try to undermine her, believing a young woman couldn't possibly be a serious businesswoman. Favor met each challenge with a combination of charm and steel. She learned to negotiate, to read people, to understand the unspoken rules of trade. Her beauty might have drawn people's attention, but her mind kept them respecting her. I am not just a face, she would think to herself. I am a force. And indeed she was. Beauty was her first weapon, but ambition was her true strength. The first time Favor saw the city, it was like watching a dream come to life. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, their glass windows reflecting sunlight like 1,000 mirrors. The noise, the movement, the sheer energy were unlike anything she had experienced in her small village. Her first trips were carefully planned. Mama Stella had taught her to be strategic, to never waste an opportunity. She would pack her handmade baskets and jewelry, each piece a testament to her growing skill. Where village markets had appreciated her work, the city offered a whole new world of possibilities. Favor quickly learned the rhythm of urban trading. She discovered that city people wanted more than just functional items. They wanted story, they wanted uniqueness. Her baskets were no longer just containers, but pieces of art. She would tell customers about her grandmother's techniques, about the traditions woven into each strand. Her beauty became both a tool and a challenge. Some merchants tried to take advantage of her, assuming she was just another pretty face. But Favor had learned from Mama Stella that appearance could be a weapon. She would negotiate with a smile that could disarm, with eyes that showed she was always 3 steps ahead. Her business grew rapidly. What started as a small trading venture became a small enterprise. She began to employ other women from her village, creating opportunities where before there had been only limited hope. Each successful trip to the city expanded her network, her understanding of the world beyond her small community. It was during one of these trips that she first heard whispers about bigger opportunities. Other traders spoke of export markets, of international buyers who would pay top prices for authentic, handcrafted goods. Favor listened carefully, her mind already mapping out potential strategies. Mama Stella watched her transformation with a mixture of pride and concern. Be careful, she would warn during Favor's visits home. Success can be as dangerous as failure if you're not watchful. But Favor was unstoppable. She was building something more than a business. She was building a legacy. Victor was not like the men Favor had known before. Where village men were predictable, he was complex. A businessman himself, he moved through the city with the same calculated grace that Favor used in her trading. Their first meeting was not romantic, it was a business encounter. They met at a trade fair, both representing their respective businesses. Favor was showcasing her latest collection of baskets and jewelry. Victor was there representing a distribution company that worked with artisan producers. Their connection was immediate, not just physical attraction, but a recognition of something similar in each other. They spoke the same language of ambition, of building something from nothing. Victor was impressed by her products, but more impressed by her vision. Most traders just want to sell, he told her during their first real conversation. You're creating something bigger. Their courtship was as strategic as their businesses. They understood each other in a way few couples do, not just as romantic partners, but as potential business allies. Their dates were discussions about market trends, about expanding their individual ventures. Within months, they were not just lovers, but partners. Victor's distribution network became the perfect complement to Favor's production skills. Together, they expanded her small business into a regional brand. Her handcrafted items were no longer just sold in local markets, but in high-end stores across the country. Their love was passionate, but it was also practical. They built a home that was both a sanctuary and a strategy center. Late nights were spent not just in each other's arms, but discussing business plans, market opportunities. Mama Stella watched this development with mixed emotions. She was proud of Favor's success, but worried about the intensity of their relationship. Love should be gentle, she would say. Yours burns too bright. But Favor and Victor didn't see it as burning. They saw it as illuminating, showing a path to something greater than themselves. The conversation about children was never straightforward in their marriage. It lingered like an unspoken tension, a quiet current running beneath their seemingly perfect life. Victor came from a large family. He was the oldest of 5 children, raised in a household where family was everything. His parents had created a warm, bustling home filled with laughter, shared meals, and the constant noise of children growing and playing. To him, children were not just a biological necessity, but a continuation of life's most meaningful journey. Favor saw children differently. Where Victor saw potential and joy, she saw complications and limitations. Her business was her first child, a creation she had nurtured from nothing into a thriving enterprise. Every moment, every resource was carefully allocated. A child would disrupt everything she had built. "We have time," she would tell Victor when he brought up the subject. Her tone was always light, dismissive. She would distract him with plans for their next business expansion, with dreams of international markets. At first, Victor was patient. He loved Favor deeply and understood her drive. He had been attracted to her ambition from the beginning. But as years passed, his patience began to wear thin. Family gatherings became increasingly uncomfortable. His siblings were having children, creating the next generation. His parents would look at them with a mixture of hope and subtle disappointment. Favor was aware of these looks. She saw the silent questions in their eyes. Why no children? Was something wrong? But she refused to be defined by their expectations. Her fears were deeply personal. She had seen how motherhood had changed women in her village. Ambitious friends became consumed by childcare, their dreams shrinking to the size of a household. Her own mother had been so overwhelmed by grief that she had abandoned her own child. Favor was terrified of losing herself in the same way. "My body, my choice," she would think to herself, but choices have consequences, and she was yet to fully understand the weight of hers. Victor's desire for children grew more urgent with each passing year. He would watch children in the park, his eyes filled with a longing that Favor could not comprehend. During quiet moments, he would talk about the kind of father he wanted to be: present, loving, supportive. "Imagine our child," he would say, his voice soft. "Inheriting your creativity, my business sense." But Favor would change the subject, always smoothly, always with a smile. But beneath that smile was a wall she had built, a protection against a vulnerability she was not ready to explore. Little did she know that this wall was slowly becoming a barrier between her and the man she loved. Distance is not always measured in physical space. Sometimes it grows in the silences between conversations, in the moments left unexplored, in the feelings left unspoken. Their home, once a place of shared dreams and passionate discussions, began to feel different. The energy shifted subtly. Conversations became shorter, more functional. Business discussions replaced intimate talks. Their bedroom, once a sanctuary of connection, became a place of careful, calculated interactions. Victor started spending more time away. Business trips became longer. Social gatherings where they once appeared as a united front now saw them maintaining a polite, distant connection. Friends and family noticed, but were too polite to comment directly. Favor's business continued to thrive. She expanded into international markets, her brand growing stronger with each passing year. From the outside, she looked successful, but success can be a lonely companion. She began to notice the changes in Victor, the way he would look at children in restaurants, how his interactions with his siblings became more strained, how his conversations with her became more about practicality and less about dreams. Pride prevented her from addressing the growing gap. She had always been the one in control, the one who navigated challenges. Admitting vulnerability was not in her nature. But love is not a business that can be managed with strategy. It requires openness, compromise, and sometimes the courage to be truly seen. The journey of accepting one's limitations is never easy, especially for someone like Favor, who had always believed she could control every aspect of her life. Fertility became her unexpected battlefield, a challenge she had never anticipated facing. Their first visit to a doctor was clinical and cold. Favor sat in the sterile waiting room, surrounded by posters of smiling babies and women in various stages of pregnancy. She felt like an imposter, someone who didn't belong. The medical professionals spoke in hushed tones, their clipboards and charts creating a language of hope and disappointment. Tests followed tests, blood work, ultrasounds, invasive procedures that made Favor feel like her body was no longer her own. Each appointment chipped away at her confidence. The doctors were kind but direct. Years of delaying motherhood had taken their toll. Her body, once her greatest asset, now felt like a betrayal. Victor accompanied her to these appointments, but his presence was different now. Where he was once supportive, now he seemed distant, his hope gradually transforming into a quiet resignation. During long car rides home, silence became their most consistent companion. Traditional healers became their next hope. Favor, who had always been skeptical of supernatural solutions, now found herself desperate enough to try anything. They traveled to remote villages, consulted with respected sangomas who spoke of herbs, rituals, and spiritual interventions. Each promise felt like a lifeline, each failed attempt another weight of disappointment. Her grandmother, Mama Stella, watched her transformation with a mixture of pain and understanding. Sometimes, she would say, the universe has plans different from what we imagine. Favor's pride began to crack. The woman who had always been in control, who had built an empire with her bare hands, now felt powerless. Motherhood, which she had so casually dismissed, now became an obsession. She began reading everything she could about fertility. Late nights were spent researching medical journals, online forums, alternative treatments. Her business began to suffer. The empire she had built with such care was slowly becoming secondary to her desperate desire to become a mother. Love is not always a straight path. Sometimes it winds, sometimes it breaks, and sometimes it shatters into pieces that are impossible to reassemble. Victor's patience, once his most endearing quality, had reached its limit. The man who had loved her unconditionally now looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and resentment. Their conversations, once filled with shared dreams, now consisted of careful, measured words that avoided the real issue. I wanted our child, he would say. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of years of unexpressed pain. Not someone else's, not an adoption, our blood, our connection. Favor tried to bridge the gap. She suggested adoption, surrogacy, every possible alternative. But Victor had become rigid. The soft-spoken man who had fallen in love with her ambition was now a stranger, someone who seemed more like a business associate than a husband. Their home, once a sanctuary of love and shared ambition, now felt like a battlefield of unspoken words and crushed expectations. Photographs of their earlier years, smiling, ambitious, united, now seemed like relics of a different life. Social gatherings became increasingly difficult. Friends and family spoke in hushed tones when they thought Favor couldn't hear. Pitying glances followed her. The woman who had once commanded rooms with her confidence now felt small, diminished. Victor began spending more time away. Business trips became longer. Nights at home became rare. And Favor, the fighter who had overcome every challenge, found herself fighting a battle she seemed destined to lose. Some endings are not dramatic. They don't come with shouting or tears. Sometimes they arrive with a quiet, devastating clarity that leaves no room for negotiation. Favor woke to an emptiness that was more profound than physical absence. Victor's side of the bed was not just empty, it was cleared. His clothes were gone. The personal items that had marked their shared life were methodically removed. A single envelope sat on the bedside table. Her name was written in Victor's precise handwriting. Inside was not a long letter of explanation, but a simple statement of finality. He was done. Their marriage was over. The words felt like physical blows. All her strategies, All her careful planning, all her belief in controlling her destiny, they meant nothing in the face of this moment. She walked through their home, their shared creation, feeling like a stranger. Every corner held a memory. The living room where they had discussed business strategies, the kitchen where they had shared late-night conversations, the study where they had built their dreams together. Now it was just a collection of empty spaces. Years have a way of transforming pain. What once felt like an open wound becomes a scar, a reminder of a journey survived. Favor watched from her window as the world continued. Her business, her first love, had continued to thrive. International recognition, awards, financial success. She had achieved everything she had ever dreamed of. But success is a cold companion when compared to the warmth of family. She learned about Victor's new life through mutual connections. He had remarried. His new wife had given him the children he had always wanted, a son and a daughter who carried his name, who would continue his legacy. The rain outside matched her internal landscape, quiet, persistent, a gentle mourning for what could have been. If only, she whispered to herself, the two most powerful words in human language. If only she had understood earlier. If only she had been willing to compromise. If only she had known the true value of what she was losing. Beautiful, successful, but utterly alone. In the quiet moments of reflection, Favor's story whispers a profound truth. Life's most valuable choices are not about what you gain, but what you are willing to compromise. Beauty, ambition, success, these are powerful tools, but they mean little without the capacity for human connection and vulnerability. In the end, life is not about perfect planning, but about being open to unexpected paths. Favor's story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest achievements are not the ones we chase, but the ones we allow ourselves to receive. Tell us in the comment section, who is to blame for the breakdown of this marriage? How can career-minded women balance between career ambitions and building a family?